socioeconomic status determine happiness? I would say that it does to an extent. Happiness can be derived from many encounters we have on a day-to-day basis and how much we take things for granted. Some may derive happiness from simply waking up in the morning, while others can drive a sports car every day and be unhappy at their current lifestyle. If you come from a low-income household, you have to make the happiness for yourself and find ways to enjoy life without spending money. It comes to a similar case for high-income households. You can buy happiness and derive it from that, or make happiness through the making and spending of money. All happiness is temporary, as we all have a set happiness level, and it rests there until we experience something of great value or great despair. Upper class is a higher disposition to be happy, due to their ability to get things that produce self-happiness easier and without exerting effort in making it. The researchers at Purdue University have found that people are happiest when their income is within $60,000 to $75,000 per year, which would be classified as middle class. But being upper class can also mean that you experience no more or no less happiness as someone within that income bracket. They also found out that wealthy happiness that is derived from purchasing items that increase happiness immensely. But it's a fleeting effect that happens days or weeks later when they return to normal happiness levels. The levels return when they realize that this thing that they bought is not going anywhere and will begin to become part of their everyday lives. In different areas of the world, different amounts of money are required to reach peak happiness. As for example, $35,000 per year is peak happiness in Latin America, and $125,000 is peak happiness in New Zealand. When it boils down to socioeconomic status, it does have an effect on how happiness can be obtained, but it does not necessarily mean that if you make more money, you are happier than someone that makes less money. An important thing to remember is, while you can buy happiness, the quality of it is just as important as the quantity of it.
My name is Connor. Thank you for having me. I grew up in a fairly well-off household. I didn't want for many things as a kid, and I was raised with good parenting. Though throughout high school I struggled with many issues involving my happiness. Through my experiences I learned it does not matter where you are born, the color of your skin, or who you are. At the end of the day, what determines your happiness is yourself. Everything in life has to do with the mindset you take at approaching the obstacles in your path. You can choose to feel sorry for yourself when you fail that paper, or you can realize that because you were feeling down, you put off that paper until the last second to instead focus on something that would make you less stressed. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, slowly collecting more and more. Putting off the paper makes you more stressed, and failing the paper adds even more snow until you have an avalanche of stress coming right at you. If you recognize the problem yourself, you can pick up that little snowball at the beginning and throw it, ceasing the avalanche of stress and unhappiness. It is true that income and happiness have a correlation. Specifically, R equals 0.264. It could be a fact that because of the privilege I had as a kid, my view is clouded. When looking at the statistics and conclusion of a study on socioeconomic and social participation on individual happiness, it showed that it seems that good and cordial relations with others, including family, relatives, and friends, are the main sources and the most important factors of life satisfaction and human happiness. Also, a higher income helps individuals to achieve their desires easily and lead a comfortable life. Therefore, it can be claimed that in most cases, the individuals with higher incomes experience lower stress and anxiety in their lifetime. Being less well off than others can contribute to more stress and anxiety, but in my mind, it is how you respond to that stress and anxiety that will determine how happy you are. If you are feeling down, surround yourself with those you love and seek their advice. Friends and family can sometimes be the only thing that can hold you up in the times of despair. Though in the end, that is not sustainable. It comes down to yourself to keep your happiness and melt away your sadness. Socioeconomic status can impact your stress and anxiety, but it will only impact your happiness if you let it.
Money governs our day-to-day life, but to say it correlates directly to happiness would be controversial to many people. But the inability to support yourself or family in a time of illness or financial need can cause added stress, can be harmful to your health. One day, a poor boy who was selling goods from door to door to pay his way through school found he only had a dime left. He was hungry, so he decided the next house he would ask for a meal. He reached the next house, a woman opened the door, and he was caught off guard, so he ended up asking only for a glass of water. The woman comes back with a large glass of milk. He sits there and he drinks it in her home, and when he finished, he asks, "How much do I owe you?" "You don't owe me anything," she replied. "Mother has taught us to never accept payment for a kindness." He said, "Then I thank you from my heart." As Howard Kelly left the house, he not only felt stronger physically, but his faith in God and man was strong also. He had been ready to give up and quit. Years later, that young woman had become critically ill. The local doctors didn't have any experience on the rare disease. Dr. Howard Kelly was called in for consultation. When he had heard the name of the town she had came from, a strange little light filled his eyes. Immediately he rose and went down the hall of the hospital room. Dressed in the doctor's gown, he went to see her. He recognized her at once. He went to the back of the consultation room, determined to do his best to save her life. From that day, he gave special attention to the case. After a long struggle, the battle was won. Dr. Kelly requested the business official to pass the final bill for him to approve it. Then he wrote something on the edge of the bill that was sent to her room. She feared to open it because she was sure that she'd be paying off the hospital bill for the rest of her life. She looked at the bottom of the bill. Written next to it was "Paid in full with 1 glass of milk," signed Dr. Kelly. I wanted to share this story because it exemplified a connection between a little boy that he went to school, he ended up going to school, and he worked his way up and he became financially secure. The woman would have had a lot of stress added onto her plate if she would have had to start paying the bill, having to pay a large bill that she probably couldn't even afford after the fact, and may have even started getting worse. And the possibilities could have been endless. It could have been bad.
As a child, the 3 school districts in my area which fed into the larger high school were greatly divided with regards to test scores, athletic achievement, and the overall quality of a student's education. These 3 elementary schools all drew students from separate neighborhoods who had varying levels of income. Unsurprisingly, students who were unfortunate enough to attend an elementary school where the student's level of income and the price of their home was less than that of other families experienced more difficulty in their education due to a lack of funding which students in more well-off communities had an abundance of. This pattern is not only limited to my personal experiences. The yearly rankings of the best high schools in the state of Georgia conducted by the Georgia Department of Education reflects this same trend. Schools in higher income areas are rated disproportionately higher than schools in other areas. Because of this, I do believe I have an advantage over others in lower income areas because I was taught to enjoy school and that pursuing a higher education is something to strive for. This is a sad truth of our education system, and I ask you why I or anyone else am entitled to a better education because of the cost of the home I live in. The agenda of public school is to give every student a fair opportunity at an education and happiness, and the system we are currently under is failing tremendously. Not only does having a more stable income make my quality of life better with regards to essentials such as buying food and water and shelter, but the mobility it allows within society to climb the corporate ladder or create your own business, or venture out into whatever avenue that makes you happy without being concerned about losing the money you need to eat that night. This type of happiness and security is something that everyone in the United States should be able to experience.